is Caroline Cerrone, and today I'm talking about the artistic process behind Jaye Madison's new music video. They have a new single that just came out called Catch 22, and I'm just sharing this video with our audience today because it was such a special project for so many different reasons. The group of people, how it came together, the meaning behind it. So we just want to share that with you guys today. And I'm just going to take a moment to introduce these special ladies today. It's been a pleasure to know them and work with them. So this is Jaye Madison.
Hi, Caroline. We're super
Hey.
excited to be here.
It's gonna be fun.
Awesome, cool. So you two are a duo, correct? And maybe you could take a moment to fill me in on your project and how you guys know each other and a little bit about the style of your music.
Yeah, for sure. So we are twin sister duo. So even though
we
we don't look like it, we are twins that are fraternal.
And we have been a duo, since day one. So it only made sense that we have the same passion in life and love to create together and create this musical entity, Jaye Madison. And it's just been a wild ride so far.
Yeah, and we really do try to play around with authentic sounds in all of our stuff. So rock, country, folk, everything that we grew up around in Texas, depending on what the song asks for when we write it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we had to put one genre to it, it would be country or Americana, but it's just got so many different influences. It's like a big pot of gumbo of different sounds. Yeah. And we really just write with the vocal melody kind of as the main piece of every song, because we're vocalists first and foremost. That was kind of where we began our love of music, was through singing, and the songwriting came a bit later in our lives. So yeah, that's just kind of a little bit of background about who we are and how we write and the sounds that we like to create.
Yeah, and then as far as the Catch 22 project, we wrote that at 22 years old because it's a weird age, you actually have to start adulting, you have bills to pay, and I don't know, it just was very much a confusing time, but also a lot of hope was involved. And a lyric that we have in the song, heart full of certainty, head full of doubt, is a perfect explanation of what that song's about, because it's you're growing up, but you're also hopeful about the future.
Right, yeah. And I think you've mentioned before that the age 21 gets so romanticized, especially in American culture. Your whole life you spend looking forward to getting to a certain point, and there's certain privileges that you're given at this time, and you have a level of expectation that you're set up for. But then what happens when you get to 22, and what are you looking forward to next? And also the responsibilities that come with it. And sometimes, the things that in American culture that get romanticized aren't necessarily what you thought they were going to be. What's not necessarily fulfilling. So it's kind of, to me, the song is about a closing of a chapter and letting go of some toxic ideas, and also looking forward into the future. And I think that's, although it's about, the age 22, these themes, they go across to any age,
Yeah. And that was the idea too. It's not just for 22-year-olds, it's for every 20 something, or even just when you're going through a tough spot and you feel in between. But also I love what you said about American culture too, because it's as much as I love the hustler mentality of a lot of artists and stuff, and just that American spirit of making money and working hard, at 22 your expectation is that it's going to happen a lot quicker than it actually does. It's like years and years and years of hard work that leads to success for people. And social media kind of bends that to where you think it happens like overnight.
Right. And then especially like tying that into being a woman in the music industry, there's like a lot of pressure on age and beauty and like, oh, you have like this clock that's ticking, like, well, you have to make everything happen. And, you know, by the time you're 30 or it's never going to happen. And it's like, so that's like a piece of it as well. It's kind of like when we hit that 22 mark, it was like, are we actually doing this? Like, are we actually dedicating our paths and our lives to this? Like, it seems crazy, but like, this has been our dream since we were little. And it's like, do we go forward or do we just go ahead and give up now? And like, clearly we move forward. So it was kind of like a crossroads moment for us.
Absolutely. And it was for everyone involved. I definitely want to get into the crew and how it was like everything that you're saying, like these themes we were all diving into on an individual level. And very much the idea behind this song is really what sparked it. And we tried to really, with like the imagery and with the things that we did artistically with the video, to really touch on that, like, you know, the pressures on women and the toxic culture around, you know, how we see ourselves, how we see each other and stuff. So there were a couple other individuals that were really special in this project. They couldn't join us here today, but Alex Lastor, she's incredible. She was the choreographer for this video, and she was such a crucial component to this because I had never worked with a dancer before. I'd never tried. Oh, by the way, I'm Caroline Cerrone. I should have said this at the beginning. So I videoed this, the music video. I filmed it and produced it and directed it. So Jaye Madison and we worked together on creating a vision that would look like what it sounds like. So it was our idea to incorporate a little bit more visual flow to it by inviting a dancer and stuff. And there's all sorts of technical challenges as a filmmaker, you know, that was such a new task for me, like syncing it together. How do you make this happen? So Alex, she was more than just a technical choreographer. She was like a therapist on set. The way that she worked with the dancer, I have some behind the scene footage. Maybe I'll be able to like edit that in here and stuff, but this was like a couple hour long process the day that we filmed it. And we'd had like a couple meetings in person before to talk about how we were going to map it out and everything. It was incredibly helpful. But we ended up doing a lot of improvisation where basically Alex would talk to our dancer. Her name is Brandy Golden, and she is amazing. You see her in the video dancing so expressively. And in the first portion, you can really see her unpacking a lot of trauma and grappling with her own reflection. So Alex would basically talk through Brandy about what she was struggling with. And she would say these things like, when you're looking in the mirror, don't worry about being beautiful. It's not your job to be beautiful. Just be you, dance expressively, dance authentically. Don't worry about how you look. It's more about how you feel. And the effect of that was just absolutely gorgeous.
You were right on it. You put your wall back. And you got scared and you almost cried. And you went, I don't want to cry. This doesn't feel good and it's embarrassing. And maybe I shouldn't cry on the video on camera in front of fucking everybody. So then you came back and you looked in the mirror and you were ready to cry. And there wasn't anything there anymore. You couldn't figure out anything out of your anxiety. So just right here. It's all right here involved. Yep. We're going to pull it right out.
I just mentioned Brandy. I mean, like throughout this process, there was so many different times where we had to reschedule and life just got on the way. But I think the timing was really perfect because throughout the last couple months, she would text me and be like, I keep on thinking about this song. And the other day I was in dance class and I got so emotional looking in the mirror. I know that when we go to film this, this is going to come from such an authentic place. So that was really cool.
I love you saying that, because like we can totally feel that through the screen when we watch the video of just this rawness, this raw emotion that she has and the connection to the song. Like even I like personally had like some things like while we were filming our part of the video that I had to work through. Like I was trying to look pretty and I was like in my head for the first part, and then I kind of relaxed a little bit later into it. But it's like you're so used to having to look pretty and having to look attractive or just being aware of yourself in a space rather than just being freely creative. So it's beautiful to hear that that was like something that
absolutely. And hearing you say that, it's like I've had such a personal difficulty throughout my life with self-love and like, you know, being in front of a camera. And it's so interesting to be behind the camera and to see like I'm working through my own personal trauma on the other side. And when you guys are like, I'm so empathic, I would just like feel whatever you guys are feeling and stuff. And while I wasn't the one being filmed, it was so crazy during that like month-long process. I didn't wear makeup barely ever, and how healing it was for me at the time to like not be seen. And although, you know, my part in this video was different, it still affected me in a different way. It didn't show up on screen, but it was so powerful, even for me.
Yeah. And I mean, that energy, like, no matter who's working on the project, whether they're behind the camera or on the camera, all of that can be felt like in the final project. I really believe that like everyone who's a part of a project, like gives their energy to it and it changes the final product and like either the best way or like sometimes it's not even in the best way, but in this case it was. And like as creatives, that's so important to us to like hear like that something we created had a ripple effect, like even in the smallest way, like of, you know, this song that we brought to this group of people. And then that had the ripple effect of like, oh, wow, this is helping me heal through something. And then it created a beautiful dance, and then it created a beautiful video. And now who knows what people are going to feel when they see that video. It's never ending. It's just this like ripple effect of emotion and connection. And it's like why we do what we do. And it's so easy to get caught up in like the vanity metrics of everything, of being an independent artist. Like, oh, well, you know, I didn't get 100 new followers, or I didn't get 100 likes, or whatever it is, like whatever that goal is. But then whenever you bring it back to the real meaning of why you're doing what you're doing, that right there, everything you just said is why we do it.
Totally.
So it means everything. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and that's why we're talking today on this platform. It's like, if it infected the individuals who created it in this way, like maybe there's more that will be sparked to, you know, inspiration through watching the music video, but also the discussion that we're having right now.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely believe that there are people out there who need this message and can resonate with it. Because like you said, if even just 3 people felt so connected to it so strongly, why couldn't 100,000 people or however many people? So,
and going back to like, you know, our results driven culture, like, and the metrics thing that Jordan said, it's like instead of having that in mind, like the song's going to be out there regardless. So like even if someone comes across it, you know, 2 years later when they need it, that's still amazing to me, you know.
It's out there in the world, you can't take it back. It's there. So
if a song doesn't like hit what people consider success, right when it's released.
What is success, right? And to touch even one life is success.
Success is
Exactly.
like going outside of your comfort zone and creating and like doing what makes you happy, because you're meant to, rather than like
right, because it's like if you're creating this piece of art just for the idea that you might become viral, like that's not long lasting. It's not like why you should be creating. So,
and of course, you know, we love like the idea of it reaching more people, because it's like that means it'll affect more people. So like I get that, but like
but that shouldn't be like, it should be kind of a result of the passion as opposed to like what you're aiming for, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think, I love that. Let's dive in a little bit into like the themes that were developed and like how we created the concept behind this music video. So when you guys first approached me with creating this music video and stuff, it started as a little bit more like an abstract concept, and over time, a narrative got sewn in and different things, but there was a couple key things that we really wanted to highlight. Number one, the fact that you guys are twins. And when you first introduced yourself, you know, it totally comes across that authenticity that you spoke of, like something about like, I mean, you guys have known each other since like, you know, your first moments, you know, on Earth and stuff. And there's something so beautiful about sisterhood being such a huge theme, and then how that expands beyond you, like attracting more people with that same energy. And so what's really cool about having twins is it gives us this freedom to like, oh, like mirroring, that was such a concept. And through your portion of the music video, you know, we really played with like, you guys are a mirror image of each other, but like, you know, you're not identical twins, you're fraternal twins. And you guys always have this struggle with like, yes, you're so similar, but don't get me wrong, I'm an individual.
Yes.
So that push pull of individuating and then also sharing that tight bond. So I don't know if there's anything you guys wanted to comment on about that aspect, either with what that's like for you personally, diving into that concept, or how that played out within the music video.
I mean, yeah, I love everything you're saying, like the individualism, like next to like community, almost like marrying each other in this video, like especially in that part where we're, you know, doing the hand motions and physically mirroring each other, where we get out of sync sometimes and then we go back into sync. So I feel like that's shown especially with the lyric heart full of certainty, head full of doubt, because there are moments in the video, the way that you edited it where you know, like it's almost like one of us is playing heart full of certainty and one of us is playing head full of doubt, like in relation to the dancing. It's just cool how you edited it. And yeah, it's just it's beautiful.
And I mean, movement was like clearly like a huge theme of it, to kind of like visually show like the dance of life and like the ups and downs of like figuring yourself out, and like what that struggle kind of like, that internal struggle, but you can see it visually. And I feel like you did a really great job of making that come to life. So
yeah, because even in like the choreography, you know, there's a moment where she's starting to like start up the dancing, and then she'll stop, you know, she's got that doubt coming in again, and then she gets into this flow right when we get into our flow, and it's just cool to see it like next to each other.
Yeah, it was so cool how some of that was like a divine coincidence. Like the lyrics are so strong that, you know, a good portion of your gestures and dance moves were improvised. And, you know, we tried this exercise with you guys of like, you know, trying to mirror each other, you know, every second one person's leading and then it's not clear who's leading next. Like we're filming this in the moment, and it was just like really cool to see that you guys have such a intimate like psychic bond, that you're like on the same page a lot of times.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very like intuitive movement. Like with us, it was cool to kind of see the contrast of like the intuitive, like in the spur of the moment movement with us, and then the choreographed side of things. But the choreographed piece of it still felt like really authentic. So it was really cool to kind of see them both side by side.
Well, and it was like a physical manifestation of like what we do on stage, you know, when we perform live. I mean, sometimes she'll match me exactly to a melody that I'm making up in the moment. Like,
and there's no explanation. It's just, you know, it's just that bond that we have. Like we've been singing together for so long that it's like we just can read each other's minds like on stage. It's crazy. I don't know.
There's such a like a energy and juju to like the melody and the lyrics, where it was like a lot of what Brandy did in the choreography was improvised. And then and so what you guys were doing linked up with what she was doing by coincidence.
She hadn't seen what we had done yet. She was just
never saw it. So it was crazy. And like editing it and stuff, there was moments where I'm like, wow, you guys are doing the same things at the same spot. So that was really cool.
That's insane. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So coming back to the themes and stuff, we wanted to highlight how there's like new beginnings and endings, and we really did that in a little bit more abstract way with your part of the music video, where you guys appeared with the kind of sunset colored background and stuff, and appearing very much in silhouette. It's very reflective nature of looking back on life, but are you also, you know, looking forward, you know?
Yeah, I love that, like especially going into spring right now, like it's just perfect mood. But yeah, the gold and the black like came together almost in Lion King fashion. You know,
the shadow and the light, like it was all very like duality, which of course makes sense with us.
Yeah, and I mean
the duality thing going on.
The sun and the moon, the gold and the black, you know, it just goes with who we are as people, like visually mixing masculine and feminine, all of it, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's very relatable to audiences because we're all at a time where we're looking to move on from a chapter of life. The last couple years have been intense, you know, for everybody. And your video is so perfectly timed, even numerically, of like how you planned out the release was like 2/22/22 and stuff, and how, you know, you guys weren't even initially gonna like release it on that date, and it just worked out that way. And
divine timing, that's all we can say.
It just felt right. And like I literally been seeing 22 and 222 like everywhere. Like,
well, I'm born on the 22nd, so yeah.
Like I didn't know that before we even started on this project, and then when you told me, I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I think it was perfectly timed for you guys, and I think it's perfectly timed for your audience too. So I just wanted to talk about like this theme of self-love. It like kept on popping up through like, you know, the idea of twins, mirroring. I felt that that's something I've always struggled with. I've gone on like long mirror fasts before, where I eliminate mirrors from my house. I don't look at them in the car. Wow. Yeah. And how mentally healing that is for me personally. But you know, it kept on appearing with like the twin thing, and then the dancers, they are in front of the mirror constantly analyzing their movements. We're, you know, on social media constantly, like the selfies, looking at the black mirror, like this thing where we're constantly faced with like self-analysis and comparing ourselves to others. So,
and to analyze you as much as you're analyzing yourself. Like that's so important to remember, you know, on social media, but also like in social situations, like where you're like in there and you're in your head about like interacting with people, when you can just like let it all go.
Yeah. And so much of it is, you know, just like a toxic current cultural thing. And the more that we put into social media and our projects that we do, awareness that, hey, this is toxic, here's health, you know, here's reality, here's authenticity, like people are craving it. People need that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just want to talk for a moment about how all these individuals came together on this special project. What's so cool about this project specifically is that this was done on like almost no budget. So we were able to create something that goes, you know, it's like, it's musical, it's expressive with dance, it's artistic, it's so visual, and you know, you would think that you need a huge budget to achieve something that looks professional, that you need to know like all these like big people. It's like, no, like what you can do by just reaching out to your community is incredible, and it's empowering. And you know, we don't need to make the excuse, oh, I can't do that right now. It's like, stop making excuses, you know. So we know each other through Madison is my vocal teacher.
Yes.
And I know Jordan through and I got to play bass for you guys on a show once. So essentially this music video was a work trade for our services and our talents. And then the others involved, it was like Brandy, I met, she works at Third and Lindsley. She's like a server there, and we just hit it off. And then when I needed a dancer, it's like, oh yeah, Brandy, like, and it was just worked out amazingly. And then Alex, she told me that she does choreography and has done dance her whole life. And she's my good friend that I met at another venue, you know? So it's like, we all knew each other, and it was just a matter of putting the puzzle pieces together in a clever way to make something happen, you know?
Right.
Yes. And like there was like this confusion around the age 22 for me, where I was like, how am I ever gonna create content and like be able to afford it? Because like at the time I was, I think, making like $9 an hour at like at a music store, like working like 40 hours a week doing the full-time thing. And I was like, how am I gonna follow this dream? Because like in your head you're told like following your dreams is easy, like just believe it and keep going and blow up. But then you hit the real world and you're like, money, like money is a big part of this. And so, yeah, it's really inspiring that this whole thing was work trade, meaning like you could just make connections with people and create something beautiful from that.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important that more people hear this, so they are motivated to act and they're inspired and they can get moving on sharing another powerful message, you know? So for the choreography, I just wanted to dive into that for a moment. Yeah, like I said, it was almost all improvised, and the emotions behind the song and the lyrics are really which spontaneously created each movement and stuff. And there's a scene, even like, I'll see if I can edit it in here and stuff, where she breaks down crying. I didn't put it in the music video, but it was needed in order to get the expressive movement that was really authentic from her, where, you know,
I just thinking about it. Oh my gosh.
yeah, during that week in particular, I know that the dancer Brandy, she was really grappling with some, you know, intense things in her personal life, and then looking in the mirror, reflecting and processing all of that. It was like a huge release, and it was able to flow out, and she was able to be more centered and present.
Yeah, she was definitely like the exact perfect person for this project, because like you can feel that through the screen, which is just a whole new level of talent, like to be able to put that out, you know.
Yeah. And our choreographer, Alex, she was going through something really intense at the time. And she just happened to have a dance studio in her apartment building. So that's where we shot, you know, location and everything. We were like set up. It's incredible. But the narrative component of the music video, telling the story of this, you know, dancer, Brandy, going through a personal issue. She's, you know, waking up in the morning and she's so upset that she like can't look in the mirror. She's like just going through it. And then the bathroom in which we shot this scene, it was like that was what, you know, Alex's bathroom looked like at the time, because she was going through some intense stuff. And we're like, you know, this is a reflection of the mental space. Everything is perfect. This is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And for our viewers and everything, it's important that we show, you know, when we're struggling on social media. It's important that we show our homes, not when it's like Instagram perfect, like these unrealistic standards that aren't reality. It's important that we don't lie to everyone else and make them feel bad about the times when they're feeling vulnerable, you know?
Yeah, that is such a cool like little tidbit that I didn't even know that that was her actual bathroom and it looked like that, because it's like that's so true. I mean, like your physical environment definitely mirrors, you know, how you're feeling on the inside. And like you said, on social media, everyone has these perfect, clean houses, and you're just like, how do I keep that up? How do I keep that perfection up? Because that's the standard.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we've all been inside our homes way more than we normally would have these past 2 years, and I think it just speaks to that as like a whole community. Like, it's okay if your house isn't pristine all the time, or it kind of reminds me of that first line in the song, like when you're 18, the world is pristine, so shiny. You, but the world is not clean in this in between of growing up and following through. So it's like you're seeing this in real life, and the fact that this was her reality, actually, that's even more amazing, because it brings it to a more authentic level, because it's like my bathroom has looked like that and 100% worse before. Like it probably looks like that. Yeah, because I'm so stressed about like other things going on in my life, and
you're pulled in so many different directions that
and I just think that's beautiful. That's what art should be. It should be like just kind of a little like look into other people's lives so that we all feel less alone. So I love that so much.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. Yeah. It's so interesting, like how by coincidence, like this powerful theme of mirroring, like really like highlighted so many ways in which we feel pressure to not mirror to the world how we are authentically, the reality of like what's going on, how we're feeling, what we look like without a filter, what we look like without makeup, you know.
And that's originally like why we went into music, was to write stuff that felt authentic, that felt like, you know, you're actually being real with people and like making them feel like, oh, it's okay that I feel that way. You know, like it's not just a sad song that you write or a hopeful song or whatever the mood is. You hope that someone else is in that space too, so that they can connect with you in that moment.
Yeah. And I hope that, you know, through seeing this, it inspires other artists to feel a little bit more freedom with like, there is so much pressure to be like, presenting yourself like, well, I've got like 1 million followers and I'm like already big, and I'm like, my music video was $1 million budget. And
yeah, like it's like they're like, oh, I want to do this music video, like, and I want it to look like Ariana Grande's. I'm like, well, that costs like millions of dollars, you know?
right. So. But one of the cool things, tying back to like how this was zero budget and everything, we're at such a cool time in like there's some toxic things going on in American culture, but technologically, you know, the access that we have to great tools, you know, so we can present something that looks like it's on a much higher budget than what it really is. And the way that social media works, there's some toxic components, but we have access to the whole world right now. We have such a huge reach. So it's actually incredibly empowering.
It really is. And in a lot of ways there, like, I know there's that argument that, the music industry is oversaturated and there's just way too many people releasing music, and like there's like this competitive thing, like you've got to steal other people's audiences or they're not going to be your audience. And it's like, in some ways there's never been a better time to be an independent artist, because you don't need a middleman. You don't need a label to like find you your audience. Like, you have that with social media if you just keep showing up and if you just keep making art that like connects with people. And like, it's not going to happen overnight. And it's inspiring, because it's like, I love when I see other artists like blow up on social media, and I like saw them when they had like a way less followers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at them now, like they just didn't give up. It's like, if they can do it, we can do it. Like, it's a really cool time to be creating and connecting with people, like if you have the right mindset about it.
Absolutely.
It's the first time in history you're able to succeed without that middleman, like she said.
Yeah, and it's like really cool because this project with you guys has really highlighted what parts of what's going on right now is empowering and what parts are disempowering that we are like able to let go of. We can give ourselves permission to separate from, what's going on there and be like, no, there are good things going on. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So I just wanted to talk about like some of the personal transformations that like occurred during this music video through diving into the subject matter. Like I said before, like that was like a crazy thing that happened with me where I like literally didn't wear makeup for a month, and how incredibly healing that was for me to just like be behind the camera. And then also, in my daily life, be like, no one's looking, no one cares. I'm just going to live my life and not be concerned with what others think of me and stuff. But, and I already kind of touched on how, powerful it was for Alex and Brandy, and like some of the behind the scenes of there were tears, there was like some intense stuff that was said that was like so empowering. I will see if I can get some more edit in of what Alex, she is like a motivational speaker, I swear to God. But I'm wondering if there was like, what kind of thoughts popped up for you guys during your portion of, filming the music video, but then also if there was anything else during the whole process of the release.
Yeah, I mean, a big theme for me, like while we were filming, was just like learning to let go. How you were describing not wearing makeup for a month, where you're just like trying to get down to like the bare minimum of like how you're feeling, like the rawness of what you're feeling instead of what it is presenting as to other people. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah, and I mean, it was cool because during the recording process, it was very much focused on like creating cool shapes and movements and moments, rather than like, okay, like get your face toward the light, do this angle, like let's try to get the right lighting and the right, shot, like, which is like, that's all part of it too. And we're like used to that. But I think for this project, it was just really special because it was like, okay, like just be in the moment, just feel the music and like let it become what it becomes. Like we didn't really have a strong like idea necessarily when we first walked in there of like what we were going to do, which I think made it feel more in the moment and more authentic. So
yeah,
it was cool. It was a really cool experience, like healing experience to process that.
Yeah, like that bridge was so healing for me. Like that section where like you filmed this separately.
Gorgeous.
Where it's like I just was able to go free and like I don't know, like I had never done that. I always considered myself not being a dancer type, where I'm technically dancing in this part, and I wasn't really concerned with what I looked like. I was just
You're like, what feels right?
Yeah, like
let's just do that.
making intuitive movements that made sense of the lyrics, and it was beautiful. It was a great experience.
I want to touch on two of the things that you just said. Also, one of the things, Jordan, what you said, where like how often when we're being filmed, we're focusing is the lighting hitting the face, right, and stuff, and how ironic the symbolism of how we lit that from a technical aspect affected the emotion and the how that came out for you guys. So the whole concept was that you guys were going to be in silhouette like the whole time. And the only way that we would get definition and shape across the face was through reflection. And then here comes the mirroring thing again, where even the light is just reflecting, and we're reflecting on our past, you know, and all these different things where it's like, it's so multi-layered with the symbolism and the lyrics of it's all tying together in all these like cool ways.
It really is. Yeah. Super cool.
And so cool to hear Madison say how you never thought of yourself as a dancer, because you're my vocal teacher and you're constantly like the first lesson, you're like teaching me to like sing with my hands and stuff. And like how it's been so incredibly movement based with what you've taught me. And like you are 100% a dancer, and how everything you teach me in lessons, it was so cool to see the application of it in that bridge where I'm like, see, breath and flow, and so cool.
And that's such a big thing too. Like what I teach you in voice lessons, like it all comes from the breath and like sending energy outwards, you know, where it's not, you're not stopping it in any way, you're just like letting it go. So that could come with like intuitive movement and all that. And it was cool because like I told myself I wasn't a dancer even back in like middle school when I took dance classes. I was like, oh, I'm not a dancer. Like, and so that story, that narrative that I told myself at that age when I felt insecure about my body and insecure about looking in the mirror, like still is with me, even though I know how to move intuitively and how to like dance. Like I am an artist at the end of the day. And so like, it's just a different medium.
Totally. I love that. I wanted to ask you guys, one of the things that was so cool about this project, the music video at least, was all female crew. You know, there were 5 of us involved with it. And this doesn't happen very often in the music industry. So what was that process what was that like for you guys?
It's just so healing. Like it's so fulfilling and healing to like find like-minded women who understand the message of the song and understand the purpose behind it, and who have like been where you are, but like also relate to it from their own story. And like, you know, like there was a time when we were, you know, trying to figure out who we wanted to work with, like producer wise, and like talking to a bunch of people about bringing this song to life. And like, we had a conversation with one and he just like didn't get it. He's like, why would you be sad? Like when you're 22, like that's when your whole life is ahead of you. And it was like, he was like trying to talk us into like making it a happy song and like
speeding it up.
It's like, oh, and I'm just like, okay, but like that's not what the song's about. And it's like
and also I think that really did show, you know, the difference between the male experience at 22 and the female experience at 22, because it's a lot different.
It is
going into that area.
And of course there's different pressures on both, you know, like at that time in your life. But it's like, yeah, like we're writing it from the female perspective because that's what we know. So like to be around other women who have experienced that and get it, and like not feeling like we have to explain it and not feeling like
we have to defend it.
Yeah, like it's always great to be working with people that you feel like you don't have to defend your art to, because the world already does that kind of for you, and it's like harsh. So to find that team that gets it is like super special and super important.
Awesome. Like everything you're saying, that totally represents what my experience was. You tapped on how like there was this environment of vulnerability, allowing each other to be soft in each other's presence and providing space for, healing to occur. Like we were just like all holding each other in vulnerable moments. And the song is so beautifully written. Like the integrity of that is written into the lyrics. And I'm so glad that you didn't change the vibe of the song or anything, because I think it's exactly what it was meant to be.
And sometimes songs can just be sad. Like you don't have to have.
Yeah, right? Isn't that another toxic pressure with the whole social media? Life is perfect, right?
You don't always have, because in life, like sometimes you don't get closure, or sometimes you're left with this feeling that is like not so great, and you don't really know how you feel, and there's like no word for it. It's this weird in between.
And so the song ends up being just like this, just saying that you feel in between.
Yeah.
You don't even really have a conclusion to it. You're just like, this is a weird
then
time.
It's basically saying like it's okay to feel scared and like hopeful at the same time. And I really feel like the melody makes you feel that like it's okay to be in this moment for right now, but like just know it doesn't last forever, and to like enjoy where you're at, even if it's a little uncomfortable.
And you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
Love that. I just wanted to tie in real quick. What an awesome coincidence. Not only was it an all-female crew, but we were all going through some personal stuff during this time, and we all bonded over like this coincidence of like we'd had some sort of personal story with autoimmune disease, either currently or at some point in our life, and that kept on being woven into there with our personal struggle. I know that Alex and Brandy and we had lengthy discussions, during, our meetings and stuff about like this thing that kept on popping up. And it's such an underrepresented community, and health has been so highlighted in the last couple years across, internationally. And it's also simultaneously such a private thing. We feel a lot of shame around our health, and we also keep it a secret. It's very private a lot of the time. So for me, it was incredible to have a safe space to go that extra layer of like, wow, there was this other incredibly powerful thing that I could vulnerably connect with others to, that not only was it like women, but it was like, people that I never meet people like me, so it was so cool to feel supported in that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like it really does parallel with what the song's about, in the sense of like you go into your 20s as a woman and you have all these challenges come at you, but like being a part of the autoimmune community, same thing goes. Like when you try to go to the doctor and like you feel like you're not being heard, or you feel like, you have to defend yourself, like all your thoughts and feelings, and like you just don't feel validated in that sometimes. And I'm very open with my journey with Hashimoto's. It's a very common autoimmune illness, and like I want other women to feel like they have someone to look up to, like who's pursuing creativity, even though they're going like on this journey as well.
Yeah. And Caroline, I love what you said when you were like, I never meet people like me, because I think that we do meet people like us all the time, but it's just like no one talks about it.
Yeah.
So I think that the fact that, this created an environment where everyone felt comfortable to like open up about that and feel seen and heard, and like realize like, oh, like we've had the same experiences, or or like Madison, who experiences like chronic pain. Like it's really cool to see that, because I think it's a conversation that cultivates healing. And just to know that you're not alone on that journey. So.
And that's like what you were saying, like with the shame thing, that's where the shame comes from, because you're like, oh, I just need to like pull myself up by my bootstraps. I think that's the saying. Pull myself up by my bootstraps and like fight through the chronic pain, fight through like just keep going, because that's the American way. And like I just need to like go. when really sometimes you just need to talk with people and relate to people and hold space for what you're feeling and what you're going through.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was so beautifully said. And yeah, I agree. There are, I'm sure, so many more people in the same position, you know, struggling with chronic pain, other issues, and we just don't know because we don't talk about it. So often we feel like I feel like, you know, I'm different, therefore there must be something wrong with me. You know, I want to keep it a secret. I don't want to let people in, you know, but the power of like talking about it is like, oh, there's more people than we realize. And this,
Feel as much like an outsider anymore.
yeah, and different isn't bad. Like,
Right.
and maybe we're not as different as we think, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, just like being close to Madison and watching her experience, like her journey with Hashimoto's, like I don't have an autoimmune illness, but like I'm clearly like close enough to her to see like how this affects day to day and everything. And, you know, just like hearing her experience, like in the medical community, like kind of feeling dismissed, or, you know, like medical misogyny is still a thing, very much so. And, you know, I've seen her experience it like time after time and feel frustrated with that journey of just kind of being like, well, like, you know, you're fine. Like, you know, it's just the dismissive nature of it, especially with women who experience chronic pain.
Or you're not like, or you're not trying hard enough, like you're not eating like the right things, like, or exercising enough. And like a lot of what you experience with Hashimoto's is fatigue and chronic pain. So you don't want to go to the gym. And then of course the food aspect, eating the right things organically, like that takes money, that takes privilege, you know, to be able to afford what's going to heal you. And so when you go in the doctor and that's the expectation, like, well, why aren't you just buying $200 worth of organic vegetables every week? You're like, well, I'm not making that kind of money, you know? And she's seen me cry, like coming back from a doctor's appointment, like just so frustrated because I wanted to.
Because they're like, well, we can't really do anything. We're not going to change your medicine. Like, you're just going to be on it for the rest. And it's just like, she's had conversation. I think it's just healing for other women to like talk to each other and be like, oh, you know, and not that it's going to fix the problem to say that that you've all experienced that, but like, I guess it kind of helps process the emotion behind it. And I'm really hoping that, you know, as we move forward as a society, like people start to care more about women's illnesses and like there's more funding within it and all of that.
When you create products and create food, like actually considering how that's going to affect a woman's body, because like even just some of the medications they put out there, like toxins that they put in stuff, like it affects women differently, and they just test it on like male rats, you know, they don't test it on female rats because we're just not considered. It's like not being considered is also a problem rather than like just being dismissed. So
yeah,
very true.
I love that. And I totally relate to that feeling of being like gaslit in your own body. Like I'm in my skin and this is what I'm going through. Yet someone is going to tell me that like I'm feeling differently, or you're crazy, or that doesn't exist. And constantly looking for answers, looking for help within our healthcare system, and, you know, not receiving it often.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for, you know, sharing your story, for being vulnerable. I know that like today I learned so much about you guys and it felt so good, so validating for me, so healing. And I hope that, you know, through this content, we can reach a couple more people. Definitely anyone that's watching, please check out their incredible song, Jaye Madison's Catch 22. Check out the video. It's available on YouTube. Where else can we find your content, guys?
All social media at Jaye Madison Band, Jaye Madison Band.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Caroline. This was awesome.
Awesome.